If you sell business to business, enterprise systems and software and services, this is the video for you. I'm going to take you through a methodology, which is a sales methodology that's been used by lots of organizations that sell high value services into other businesses. And it's a simple but really effective way in which you can do the right things to get the right result at the bottom, which is you winning that deal. Let's have a look at MEDDPICC and what are the aspects that make up MEDDPICC and how we can start to use them in our sales process and activities to get the results we want. So MEDDPICC was created by a guy called Dick Duncan a number of years ago, and the reason that people use it, and he used it as a sales professional at the time, was it gave him a simple methodology to use with his team in order to make sure that they ticked the right boxes to know whether a potential prospect was going to become a client or not. It enabled them to save time and become more efficient along the way. And so what it does is it gives us some criteria and steps to work through and move through that can enable us to get the right results. And when we go through these steps, we're able to then make sure that from gateway to gateway, we've ticked every box. And if we have ticked all the boxes, we know we've got a far better chance of winning the deal. So what is MEDDPICC? What does it stand for? And what are some of the things you can do to find the information out in each area? So the M stands for metrics. And the whole concept around MEDDPICC is that we want to be looking for the metrics that are critical to that large organization and the way in which they operate. There'll be a series of key performance indicators, key metrics that the business has to achieve, whether it's maybe to achieve growth targets for the stock market, whether it's to achieve cost reduction numbers. There'll be a set of key metrics that that business and the different chief people and senior people in that business want to achieve. And so the goal behind MEDDPICC is to make sure that what we're selling can fit into one of those metrics. The problem is when you're working with big organizations, if you don't tie in what you do to some of the bigger strategy and goals that they have, you're never going to be able to connect and do the work with them. So focus on the metrics firstly that are critical for your buyer or potential buyer. What are the things that they're driving to? Is it customer satisfaction? Is it profit? Is it revenue growth? Is it cost reduction? Is it employee satisfaction? What are the drivers and the metrics that they hold themselves to account for that you can link your solution into and that your solution is vital for? So the first thing is understand the metrics that are driving the overall process at the buyer's mindset that they're going to want to put in place in order to achieve what they want. That's the first M that we've got to nail and sort out. A great way to be able to do that is to be able to go in and engage with a potential buyer at a company and say, I've seen on your company page that you're looking to achieve revenue goals over the course of the next 6 to 12 months of X. How are you guys achieving that? What's stopping you from making those things happen? So focus on understanding the metrics that they're working on, and if we understand those and we can make sure that what we do and the solution that we have ties into a problem or a desire that they have, we're going to be in a good position to move things forward. So point number 2 on the MEDDPICC model is all around the economic buyer. In my BANT video, I talked about a methodology around getting authority, and BANT stands for budget, authority, need and time. And have a look at the video, we'll put a link in here, and it's another method you can use. But the key thing that MEDDPICC talks about is there is ultimately in large deals, especially if you're dealing in big companies with big numbers, there is ultimately a chain in command of where someone has a budget to use. And the reality is, especially if you're implementing a big new software system or maybe a big new service, and you're asking to spend maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of pounds on that service, you're going to need to get to the person that ultimately makes the decision. There's normally an economic buyer, a person that makes that call. And what we've got to be able to understand is, who are they? How does that process work for them? And as we'll talk about in the other methods, how do we start to engage with them? But the reality is those decisions are generally made at senior C-suite levels. So the goal of us in sales here is to make sure we understand who that economic buyer is, who's the ultimate decision maker, or how is the decision making process done at that stage, who has ultimate responsibility. It's really important in the sales process here that we understand the dynamics at bigger companies. There's always a series of power plays that go on between different people at different levels, but ultimately there'll be someone that has the ability to say, yes, we're going to go forward with this or not, and our job is to find out that so we can then start to engage with them. Great ways to be able to do this when you're engaged in a sales position is to talk to someone in the company you're working with. Tell me a bit more about the structure of the organization. I've had a look online, I can see this person works for this. How does the structure work? or who's responsible for making this decision, or how did the decisions get made at your organization to move things forward, or who will ultimately have the final say on a decision like this, or how does the organization make decisions in this area. You're looking to find out who the economic buyer is so that we can make sure that we can put our solution in place at the right time in front of that person to make them think, yeah, this is the one I want to go with. So the 2 Ds within MEDDPICC relate to 2 key parts of the decision that we want to be able to get right. The first one is the criteria, and the second is the process. So when we're in sales, our job is to understand what is the criteria on which a decision for a new solution or maybe a re-tender will be made. What factors are going to be involved in making the point of being able to choose between one provider or another? Is it going to be based upon quality? Is it going to be based upon initial cost? Is it going to be based upon the ongoing cost? Is it going to be based upon the reputation? What are the criteria that that organization is going to use to measure and manage the relationship they have with the supplier? And also, how does that ultimately link in to the metrics and who's responsible for those metrics? The key thing is the criteria. We want to be in sales in control of the process. So if we don't know what it is that we've got to do, and we then don't know the process by which the decision happens, we're in the dark and we're basically wasting our time. Brilliant salespeople use MEDDPICC as a method to be able to understand the criteria, and they get that confirmed by the senior people and also the people they work with, and they're able to then go through and understand the process that it takes. Now, these bigger deals can sometimes take 3, 6, 9, 12 months, if not longer, to go through, and they understand the work that has to be done and the conversations and discussions at different points in time to ensure everyone's involved. The process is really critical to get to a decision. It might mean involving other team members or other areas. It might mean involving different divisions and different departments. It's about making sure that we know how the decision will be made and what the criteria and the process is for getting that in place. And great salespeople are able to understand that. Again, questions you can ask are, talk me through the process by which you guys make these decisions, or how will you make a judgment on who is the right solution for you? What criteria will you use? Or what does success look like for you guys in 6 to 12 months time, and what would be the ultimate point of failure? We're looking to ask the questions of the key people and the contacts and the relationships we have to find out these 2 points, and if we can do that, then we can start to move forward in the sales process and hopefully get to an end decision. So the 5th point of MEDDPICC relates to the paper process. You might argue, what is the paper process? Well, the reality is it's the steps that we have to go through as a salesperson to get any deal done. Invariably, we can't just sell big systems and solutions into organizations and not understand that there's a series of bureaucracy and elements of terms and conditions and service level agreements and all these other factors that have to be taken into account when it comes to delivering on a solution. They don't just make a decision simply, especially if you're talking about large thousands of pounds of deals. They want to know how it will be implemented and how it will work and how it will operate. So we've got to be able to be clear about understanding the paper process and having someone in the organization that can help us manage ourselves through this and know the bits to worry about and who in which area could become a problem for us is really critical here. The point number 6 related to MEDDPICC comes down to identifying pain. You'll know from all of my previous videos that pain is a critical factor when it comes to anyone making a decision. Pain follows POs, and if we can identify the pain that's being caused by the issue that we've talked about and by the thing that we solve, and we can find out what impact it's having for the organization and what it's stopping the economic buyer from doing, maybe it's harming their reputation, maybe it's making them look bad in front of other senior leaders with certain metrics. What is the pain and what's the extent of that pain? What's the impact of the pain if they don't get it resolved, and where does it fit within their priority list? Pain is probably one of the most critical factors when it comes to selling, whether you're selling in a high-end business-to-business environment or in a low-end sector. The reality is, if you want to be able to do business at big levels, you've got to know the pain points, and you've got to be able to identify it and probe beneath the surface and find out what's driving that pain issue. Focus on identifying pain through the MEDDPICC process and get clever at being able to understand what's the implications, how will this affect the organisation, what will happen if we don't get this resolved, what could be the implications. Think about it like this: if you had a bleeding neck right now and your neck was cut and your artery was bleeding, you'd want something very quickly to solve the pain. The thing is, we've got to understand is, what is that bleeding neck issue for our buyers and the people that we work with? What's causing them challenges if we don't get resolved could cause them bigger issues afterwards. Identifying the pain, key part of MEDDPICC, get that right, and it's going to put you in a great position to hopefully then position your solution as a method to avoid that pain itself. So the seventh word when it comes to MEDDPICC comes down to the word champion. What do I mean by the word champion? It's about finding someone in the organisation that can be your champion, can be the person that can basically take your company and become your, if you like, internal salesperson. Big organisations tend to have different departments in different areas, and the reality is you're never going to be able to get into all of those people because you're not there full time. But if you can identify a champion in the business, a person that you've been able to build a strong rapport with and relationship with, who can then start to sell and share what you do internally and engage you with the economic buyer and other people in the process, it's going to be a great way to enable you to move that deal forward. Champions are critical. They're people you're going to need to build relationships with over time. They're people that have influence and authority in that organisation. People that can have conversations. I worked with an organisation that was selling into a large manufacturing company, and they were able to have a great conversation, their champion, with another board director who had responsibility, who could then sway other board members in a conversation around the impact that they had. It's been able to bring champions up and help them sell internally and give them the tools to do that can enable you to win deals. So focus on your champion. Who is the champion you've got? If you haven't got a champion in the business, then you need to work to find out who that could be. How could they be a person that could then take your solution upwards and engage other people in the process? Building champions is critical if we want to be able to understand how to get that deal done and over the line. And the final point around MEDDPICC relates to competition. The reality is this. In most deal sizes, when especially going after big business, you're not going to be on your own. Invariably, if you're lucky enough to have a completely unique product or service, that's fine. But there'll probably be a different way of doing something which is provided by a different competitor. So the reality is who is the competitor in the situation? Is it an incumbent in the place at the moment? Is it a person that wants to do business, that's trying to get in or trying to win the business as well? Maybe they've got an internal champion as well. What are the key things that you need to know about your competition to know how you can differentiate your service and what you offer to make sure you stand out ahead of those people? We want to be really careful when we're talking about the competition because bad-mouthing people doesn't work, but it's about being able to identify your strengths and your value proposition when compared to other people. Maybe there's some unique elements that you can offer that can add value to the metrics that the economic buyer has, or some that can make a difference in the criteria when you're working with the team there. But the key thing is don't be naive and think no one else is involved. Ask the questions. Who else is involved in the process? Who else are you talking with? Who's currently working with you at the moment? And what is it you like about that solution and what is it you don't like? Let's make sure we ask the relevant questions around our competition so we can know who we're up against and how we can create a narrative and a story that positions us well ahead of them. So the reality is there's MEDDPICC as a sales methodology. It's a simple methodology that other people are using on a regular basis. And if you can make sure that you can tick and identify each of these criteria and make sure you know the process, who the buyer is, the criteria and the way they're going to use, what are the things that stop the deal happening, what the pain is, build an internal champion, and then be in a position where you understand the competitive landscape, put all those things together and use your other sales skills in questioning and building great relationships, and it's going to hopefully enable you to win the business and get things done. That's my view on MEDDPICC, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think MEDDPICC can work for you? Is it a methodology that could help you generate business? Do you sell into these environments and use a different methodology? Let me know in the comment section below. But I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please like, subscribe to the channel. I'm all about creating sales videos and tips and tools that can help you achieve incredible sales results and plans that drive growth. Let's use MEDDPICC where we need to, as well as the other tools in our bag to become brilliant at selling and get the results we want. See you soon.